Hey, I'm Paula Williams.
I'm John Williams.
We are ABCI, and ABCI's mission is
To help all you folks out there in the aviation industry sell more of your products and or services.
absolutely. So we've been talking about branding all month because this is our workshop this month. Hopefully you have made it to that. If not, you can of course see the recording. But we wanted to share a little bit of additional information that goes beyond the hour that we could spend in how to build an aviation brand that flies, right?
True.
Okay. So this is another extension of how to use that brand once you have a great brand that you are happy with and proud of and feel great about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So every time you interact with a customer, you are either adding to or subtracting from their emotional bank account with your company, right? Or with your brand. That's from Red, right? You remember?
Yeah.
John Malkovich's character is talking about, you want to make the run to emotional safety. Stephen Covey also used to use this in his books. He talked about the emotional bank account. When you have a relationship with somebody, you have an emotional bank account where you are either adding to or subtracting from that bank account all the time. And you want to make sure that you're always making deposits because every once in a while you're going to make a withdrawal, right?
Whether you want to or not.
Whether you want to or not, something's going to go wrong in any relationship sooner or later, right?
Really?
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
It does happen. And in fact, we've talked about this with our kids when they're in relationships with people and with each other, It's always a 70-30 situation. You want to be giving 70 and taking 30 because that ends up being about 50-50 because we each have different perceptions of what we should and shouldn't be doing in a relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So in a brand relationship, it's the same thing. You want to make sure that you're giving more than you're getting, right? Making those deposits. Okay. So whenever a customer service interaction happens, sometimes that's already starting at a negative because something bad has happened and they're calling you. Whether or not it's your fault, you're already in the red, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So some things that you can do to make sure that your brand comes out ahead and this ends up being a deposit rather than a withdrawal are to make sure that you are enabling your reps to think, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You're not going to give them a script and expect them to follow it all the time because nothing infuriates a buyer.
Me.
And John's a pretty good demographic of an aviation buyer. They expect to get a hold of somebody that can think and that can understand their problem and can solve their problem and not just quote the company line, right?
Yeah. If they get somebody on the script and then you say something and they reiterate what the script is, I just feel like hanging up and
Right.
will unless it's the only clay in town.
Right. And, so you want to make sure that they know, some pretty good questions and answers and everything else. So they've got all that down, but then they can depart from that when the situation calls for it, right? So you want to make sure that they're communicating consistently about your products and services. They're enforcing your policies. They're doing what they need to do, but also they are treating the customer like an individual. And, with some companies, they have a certain amount of latitude. They even tell people, if you can solve this customer's problem for less than $100, just do it, right? Whatever it takes. If you've got to send them a new one, if you've got to send them a part, if you need to overnight something to them, whatever it is. And you can figure out what that bracket is depending on how long your reps have been with you, how much you trust them, how much training you've invested in, and all of that stuff. But hopefully that's always improving as your reps get better, right? And you do some role playing too. This is always fun to do, and it's always a great way to get people off the script. Throw in a squirrel, right? Make sure that you've got people on your team that can play the devil's advocate and, get them off the script, see what they do, and make sure that you're going to support them and back them up if they do the right thing for the customer.
And I'm a good one to get people off the script in the real world. In fact, typically what happens is if I'm at level 1 for support, I get them off the script and, well, I can't. I said, I know. So send me to second level.
Yeah. And that's totally fine because, you have to operate within the structure and everything else, but the better you can push that down to their first contact, the more efficient that is for the customer and the better that works out. Okay. So another thing that you can do is to do uniforms, right? For your customers, if you're in an FBO or a MRO or some kind of a brick and mortar facility, you want to make sure that the people that are representing you look good, smell good, look official, so they can tell who are the people that work here and, they feel good about interacting with them. And one way to do that is to provide uniforms, provide laundry for the uniforms, if it's an MRO, a lot of things like that.
I've been in positions where people have asked me, blah, 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 and I said, I don't work here.
Right.
You don't? Oh.
Right. How can I tell who works here? So, yeah, you want to make your people look distinctive and stand out, right?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Another thing that you want to do is make sure that you follow up after a customer service interaction.
Yeah.
Have somebody call back and say, so, I understand you had a problem. It looked like we had it solved, but I just wanted to make sure that everything's okay. 24 hours after the incident or whatever the situation is. And that can leave them with a much more positive impression.
And does not mean send them a survey.
Right. No, that usually means make a phone call and say, hey, I understand this happened, and ideally from a human being who has read the notes.
Yes.
And can say, I understand that this was the problem. I assume that this worked, but I just wanted to follow up with you.
To make sure nothing else has happened so we can fix that if necessary.
Right, exactly. And then that's a great opportunity if they are happy to say, would you mind if I sent you a survey about your interaction with us? And then you can ask them for referrals, testimonials, and other things like that, because that's a great time. Once you've solved somebody's problem, they feel great about you. And you've just turned that withdrawal into a deposit, right?
Hopefully.
Hopefully. Right. Exactly. So that's basically how you manage those customer service interactions in a way that's going to extend your brand. You want to make sure that your people are empowered, your people are visible, your people are obvious, your people look good and smell good. Your people are following up for each other. And ideally, you have more than one person in customer service. You have one of the people solve the problem initially, have somebody else do the follow-up, just so the person feels comfortable sharing with you, yeah, he did a great job, or not. And, all of those things so that you can build that reputation. And every single time you interact with a customer, it is building that brand reputation and that brand equity. And that person is going to become an advocate for you or not. And aviation is such a small world that this is such a huge deal. I can't overstate the importance of making this work, right?
Exactly.
Okay. Great. See you next week.
Ciao.